So our next topic is Newton's laws of motion at a glance. So first of all, let us look at the concepts we are going to deal here. First one is Newton's three laws, that is Newton's first law, second law and third law. Next one, equilibrium and Lami's theorem. Third one, inertial and non-inertial frames of reference, pseudo forces. Fourth one, types of forces. Fifth one, normal contact force. Sixth, tension force and pulleys. 7, spring force. 8, series and parallel connection of springs. Okay. This is just a brief discussion, just recollecting them what we have learned before. So I will not elaborate more. The first one is Newton's first law. You know, Newton's first law is also known as law of inertia. What it states, if a body is in a state of rest, it continues to be in state of rest until net external force acting on the body is 0. If no net external force acts on the body, that will remain in the state of rest. And if a body is moving with a constant velocity along a straight line, it remains to move with the same constant velocity along the same straight line unless it is acted upon by net external force. That is, until net external force is 0, it continues its motion like that. Okay? And the physical property which is opposing any change to its state of rest or state of uniform motion along a straight line is known as inertia. So what is inertia? Inertia is a physical property due to which a body opposes any change to its state of rest or state of uniform motion along a straight line. That physical property is known as inertia. Inertia is directly proportional to mass. Inertia is directly proportional to mass. More the mass, more will be inertia. Less the mass, less will be inertia. And mass is the measure of inertia. So inertia is measured in terms of mass. So in kgs only. What are the units for inertia? Kg in SI unit. So here, inertia, nodal inertia, first law is giving us information regarding three things here. One is force. Number 2 is inertia. And number 3 is equilibrium. How about force? Because it is telling us, it is giving idea that if a body, if we have to change the state of rest or state of uniform motion of a body, what is required? Force is required. Something is required. That something is known as force. So it is giving us imaginative idea of force. And also it is giving us a new physical quantity which opposes the change in its state of rest or state of uniform motion along a straight line, that is inertia. And one more thing is equilibrium. When a body is in equilibrium, net force acting on that body will be 0. Net external force acting on the body must be 0. This information is also given by Newton's first law only. So we do problems regarding equilibrium. So that is depending on Newton's first law only. Got it? Okay. And you know, regarding inertia, there are three types of inertia. Inertia of rest, inertia of motion and inertia of direction. If a body is in rest, if we apply force, and in that case it is known as inertia of rest because it is opposing any change to its state of rest. Okay? If it opposes any change to the magnitude of velocity, we call it as inertia of motion. If it opposes change to its direction of motion, then we call it as inertia of direction. Okay. Next one is Newton's second law. Newton's second law. What is Newton's second law? If a mass m is there, if a force F is acting on that mass m, it produces an acceleration a, which is given mathematically as F equal to ma, or vectorially it is given as F bar equal to ma bar. So the acceleration produced in the body is same as the direction of applied force here. The acceleration produced in the body is same as the direction of applied force here. And sometimes F is not equal to ma, or F bar is not equal to ma bar. I will explain you why it is not always true. Suppose if we consider a block here, if a force F is applied in this direction and this block moves on this floor like this, so its acceleration will be like this. F bar is in this direction, A bar is in this direction. So here we cannot write, suppose if the mass of the block is m, F bar equal to m A bar. We cannot write like this. Why? Because this A bar is not in the direction of this F bar, where F bar is the applied force. Then why? What we have to write here? Here we have to write F x bar. Suppose this is x axis, this is y axis. Then Fx bar equal to m A bar. What is Fx here? If this force F bar is resolved into two components, this will be Fx bar and this vertical one will be Fy bar. So got it like this? So this is the perfect thing. So we should find out that which component of force is responsible for actually producing this acceleration. Got it, no? So F bar equal to ma bar is Newton's second law. Here acceleration is produced in the same direction as that force which is actually responsible for this acceleration. Here which force is responsible for this acceleration? Fx, not applied force F bar, only Fx part, no? So Fx bar equal to ma bar. So this acceleration A bar is in the direction of Fx bar. It is not in the direction of Fy bar. It is not in the direction of applied force F bar. Got it? I think it is clear now. And if anybody asks you what is Newton's second law, you will say that F is directly proportional to dP by dt, or F bar is directly proportional to dP bar by dt. The external force acting on a body is directly proportional to the rate of change of momentum. Since for now we have not introduced this word or this physical quantity momentum, we are going to introduce it later. Therefore, we are not opting this one. We are considering this one because we are familiar with acceleration. Already kinematics part was over, so we are familiar with acceleration. So F bar equal to m into A bar, we can use this one. This is Newton's second law. Got it? So what is the difference between, while there is Newton's first law is there, what is the necessity of Newton's second law? First law gives us only the imaginative idea of force. What is force? Like that. Second law helps us to measure force. So in problems we use Newton's second law. So what is Newton's third law? Newton's third law. For every action there is equal and opposite reaction, you know. This is body A, this is body B. If body A applies a force on body B, let it be Fa. Body B applies the same amount of force on body A, let it be Fb. That is Fa equal to Fb. So magnitudes of these forces are equal. Then what about directions? Fa bar is equal to minus Fb bar. So both of them are opposite in direction. So for every action there is equal and opposite reaction. Here the forces are not cancelling each other because they are not acting on same body, they are acting on different bodies. What it? Suppose if force acts on same body, what happens? In this direction F, in this direction F, then what happens? Net force here is 0. Got it? So Newton's laws, 3 laws are over. Now let us see what is equilibrium. Second topic, equilibrium and Lami's theorem. What is equilibrium? If a body is in rest, suppose if this particle is there, if it is in rest, we say that this body is in equilibrium. Or if it is moving with a constant velocity, then also it is said to be in equilibrium. So simply, if acceleration of a body is 0, if acceleration equal to 0, then the body is said to be in equilibrium. When acceleration will be 0, when net force equal to 0, because from Newton's second law, F net bar equal to ma bar. Okay, if a bar equal to 0, then what happens? M cannot be equal to 0, so compulsorily F net bar must be equal to 0. So what does it mean? What is clear? What is clear here? If a body is in equilibrium, that means F net bar equal to 0. Okay, so when problems are given to us, we will be asked to find an unknown force. while many forces are acting on a body and keeping it in equilibrium, we will be asked to find the unknown force here. For example, if a particle is here, there are many forces are acting on this particle like this. This is F1 bar, this is F2 bar, this is F3 bar. Okay, this particle is in equilibrium. Then in this case, suppose if this particle is in rest, then summation over F bar equal to 0. Sum of all force vectors must be equal to 0 because this particle is in rest, means it is in equilibrium. That is F1 bar plus F2 bar plus F3 bar equal to 0. Got it? Yes. So how to find the unknown forces here? What we do is we resolve all the force. Suppose if we take a coplanar forces, if we consider coplanar forces, that is x-axis, this is x-axis and this is y-axis, x-axis and y-axis. For sake of simplicity, we are considering only coplanar forces. If this particle is there, suppose number of forces are acting like this. If two forces are given to us and one is unknown force is given to us, then how to solve? Just resolve the forces into components, x component, y component. This force F1x in this direction, F1y. This one F2x in this direction, F2y. This is already along y direction, along negative y axis, so we cannot resolve this. Okay, so in this way, after resolving the forces, just do this one, summation of fx equal to 0. All the forces along x direction, fx bar. Bar means, see, if the forces are along right direction, they are along positive x-axis, take them as positive values. If the forces are along negative x-axis, give them negative values. Okay, so sum of all the forces are 0, you can find unknown quantity here. Similarly, sum of all the forces, summation of all the forces along y-axis, fy bar equal to 0. Then also we write the equation, then we can find unknown value. Finally we will get fx and fy, and solving that one we can get the unknown force here. Got it? And so this is the general case. The resolution of forces into vectors is the general case. We can use it if how many more, even if more number of forces are given to us, we can use that one. Then what about Lami's theorem? Lami's theorem, it is a mathematical expression which helps us to solve these problems easily, but it is having its own limitations. It is applicable only when three forces are given. Three forces are acting on a particle and keeping it in equilibrium. For example, like this. So this is F1 bar, this is F2 bar, and this is F3 bar. The angle opposite to F1 bar is alpha, angle opposite to F2 bar is the beta, angle opposite to F3 bar is gamma. So here, according to Lami's theorem, F1 bar by sin alpha equal to F2 bar by sin beta equal to F3 bar by sin gamma. This is the expression here. This is applicable only when three forces are given to us. Got it? Next, fourth one. Inertial and non-inertial frames. Inertial and non-inertial frames of reference and pseudo forces. So what is the inertial frame of reference and what is the non-inertial frame of reference? What is inertial frame of reference? A frame of reference which is in rest, that is v equal to 0. It is said to be an inertial frame of reference, or v is some constant value. Okay, if v is 0 or v is constant value, then such a frame of reference is known as inertial frame of reference. And what is a non-inertial frame of reference? It is having acceleration. Acceleration is non-zero. So if the frame of reference is having acceleration, it is known as non-inertial frame of reference. What are examples for inertial frame of reference? Ground, earth. This is the example for inertial frame of reference. Okay, non-inertial frame of reference. Suppose for example a person is moving in a car, the car is accelerating, and if he observes an event outside, then now the car, if we work within the frame of the car, then the frame of car is considered to be non-inertial frame of reference because it is accelerating. Suppose if the car moves with a constant velocity, if the same person observes another event, now what if we are working with the frame of reference of the car, now the frame of reference of the car is inertial frame because it is moving with a constant velocity. If the car is in rest, inertial. If the car is moving with a constant velocity, inertial frame of reference. If the car is accelerating, non-inertial frame of reference. And turntable, for example, if a person is sitting here on the turntable and he is observing any event. So since this turntable is having a centripetal force towards its center, that is, it is having centripetal acceleration towards its center. See, the person is sitting on a frame of reference which is accelerating, which is having centripetal acceleration. So this frame of reference will be a non-inertial frame of reference only. Okay, then you may get doubt regarding earth. Earth is rotating, no sir, why it is considered to be inertial frame of reference? Due to its big size, its rotational effect is negligible, and hence it is supposed to be inertial frame of reference only. Perfectly speaking, it is actually non-inertial frame of reference only, but here it is assumed to be inertial frame of reference. So why should we talk here about inertial and non-inertial frames of reference? What is the necessity? We are having Newton's laws is there, Newton's laws are there. So we can study the motion of bodies where forces are acting using Newton's laws. So what is there if there is inertial or non-inertial? Just we can neglect now like this. Now actually Newton's laws of motion, they are not applicable in non-inertial frames of reference. Newton's laws of motion are only applicable for inertial frames of reference. Got it? Then what? How can we solve problems when we work within a non-inertial frame of reference? So in that case, just we choose an FBD, we choose a system. We draw all the forces, for example, normal reaction force, gravitational force, here external force, all the forces. And suppose if the frame of reference is having acceleration a0 in this direction and the mass of the system is m, suppose, then just to do one thing, we draw an extra force on this mass. How much force? It is equal to product of the mass and acceleration of the non-inertial frame of reference. Okay, the force is ma0. We should draw ma0. In which direction we should draw? Opposite to this acceleration. In which direction the frame of reference is having acceleration? Just opposite to that one, we have to draw this one. This is ma0. But actually this force is acting, this force is acting, this force is acting on this body. This force is not existing actually. This is an imaginary force we are drawing to solve the problem here. So this force does not exist actually, hence it is known as pseudo force. Got it? Yes. Number 5, types of forces. So there are we are considering two types of classifications here. One is fundamental forces. What are fundamental forces? In the universe, there are 4 fundamental forces, that is basic forces. Number 1 is weak nuclear force. Number 2 is strong nuclear force. Number 3 is gravitational force. Number 4, electromagnetic force. So weak and strong nuclear forces, these forces are present within the nucleus. So they are not applicable in any other chapter in physics. They are only confined to nuclear physics chapter. Only one chapter. Next, gravitational force, gravitation chapter itself is there. So it is one force. It is one basic force, gravitational forces. So in physics chapters, other than in nuclear physics, wherever we find any force, that force comes under two categories. Either it is a gravitational force, then if it is not a gravitational force, it must fall under this category. Like gravitational force, there is no single electromagnetic force. Many forces come under this category. Let us see what are those categories here. Number one is normal contact force. Number two is tension force. Number three, friction. Number four, spring force. Number five, air resistance. Number six, viscous force. Number seven, electrostatic force. Number 8, magnetic force. So all these forces, they come under electromagnetic force here. So got it? Next category, next classification is contact force, non-contact force. What is a contact force and what is non-contact force? In the name itself it is there, contact force. The force that comes into existence when two bodies comes in contact. Here, what is non-contact force? This, when two bodies are not in contact also, they are capable of applying force on the other body. Okay, such a force is known as non-contact force. For example, two bodies are there, this is A, this is B. A collides against B and applies a force on B, which is given as Fa here. By Newton's third law, if one body applies force on another body, what it will do? It also applies the same amount of force, no? So this block B also applies a force Fb such that Fa equal to Fb, you know, and Fa bar equal to minus Fb bar, okay, you know. These forces, they are contact forces because the two bodies come in contact and apply force on one another. And here, what about this non-contact force? Suppose if you consider a positive charge here, if you consider negative charge here this positive charge is attracted towards the negative charge, okay, by some force F. This positive charge also obeys Newton's third law and pulls this negative charge with the same amount of force. For every action, there is equal and opposite reaction. Here also it obeys. Even it is a contact force or non-contact force, Newton's third law is obeyed. If positive charge is pulled by this negative charge, positive charge also will pull negative charge towards itself. Got it? Similarly, if we consider a north pole here and a south pole here, north pole is pulled by the south pole towards itself, and again the south pole also will not sit quite here. It also pulls the south pole towards itself with the same amount of force, obeying Newton's third law of motion. Got it? See here, these bodies are not in contact and applying forces on one another, here and here. Such forces are called as non-contact forces. Here these force can be applied only when the body comes in contact with the other body. Such a force is called as contact force. What are the examples for contact forces and non-contact forces? Here our examples are ready here. All these forces, normal contact force, a tension force, a friction force, spring force, air resistance, viscous force. All these are examples for this one. And what about non-contact forces? One more force I am adding here, gravitational force or force also. It is also non-contact force. See, Earth is pulling moon towards itself by applying some gravitational force. Moon also applies the same amount of force, okay, on Earth and pulls Earth towards itself. So these three are examples for non-contact forces. Got it? So there are two types of forces, fundamental forces we should know, as well as contact and non-contact forces also we should know. Number 6, normal contact force. Normal contact force symbolized as N. What is a normal contact force? The force that acts normal to the plane of contact when two bodies comes in contact. Such a force is known as normal contact force. For example, a block is there here and another block This is block A, this is block B. Two blocks are there. See, block A is in contact with block B and block B is in contact with block A, no? And this is the plane of contact. This part is plane of contact. See, this block B is applying a force on A like this. A force which is normal to the plane of contact. This is N. Block A also applies the same amount of force on block B. So one body is applying force on another body. Why they are applying? Due to what they are applying? Because they are in contact. Due to that contactness only, these forces are coming into existence. When a body just comes into contact, normal reaction force comes into existence here. Here this body, and one more thing is normal contact force is a pushing force. It is a pushing force. See, this block B, it is not applying force towards itself. It is applying force away from itself on this block A. So it is pushing. It is trying to push the body A, and body A also applying force on block B like this. It is also pushing. So we can consider normal reaction force as a pushing force. Here plane of contact is it is a plane, so it is no problem. We can easily find out normal at every point normal reaction force will be in same direction. But if we consider a curved surface like this, in this case what we do, at different points the normal reaction force will be different, normal contact force will be different, because here the plane will be different, plane of contact will be different. How we can find plane of contact? Just draw a tangent line there. Okay, just draw a tangent plane. So we have to draw normal contact force here. Suppose at this point, what is tangent plane? Like this. Normal contact force is like this. So this normal contact force is in different direction, this normal contact force is in different direction. Okay, for curved surfaces. It's if they are plane surfaces, all the normal contact forces will be in same direction. Okay, so normal contact force is a force which comes into existence just when the bodies come in contact. Okay, next one, number 7 is tension force and pulleys. Tension is a force that is present in strings, and that too only stretched strings. It is not present in slackened strings. For example, this is a string is there, this is a slackened string. So if you apply force on this end and this end like this, then the string will be in stretched form. So we cannot apply force, tension force in this direction. If once we try to apply force in this direction, immediately the string slackens and tension forces will be nullified. So tension is a force that keeps the string in stretched form. Okay, and not only that, tension force can only pull a body. Suppose if this is external force, a T is applied here, this tension acting on this block will be in this direction. So it is, what type of force it is? This force is pulling this block in this direction. It cannot push it. Suppose if we try to push in this direction, is it possible to push it? No, it is not possible. We can only pull. This is pulling force, and this block is pulled towards pulled rightwards. So okay, so tension force is only a pulling force. It can only pull the bodies but can never push a body. So most important things about tension force is that one is tension force acts on strings in such a way so as to keep the string in stretched form. And one more thing is tension force can only pull a body but can never push a body. These 2 points are very important and helps us to draw diagrams regarding tension forces. Okay, suppose if 2 blocks are there here like this, this is block A, this is block B. So what is the tension force on this block A? In this direction, T. What is the tension force on this block B? Not in this direction. Suppose if this is external force applied on block B, and if it is pulled in this direction rightwards, so how tension force acts on this block here? In this direction. And how external force is acting here on this block B? Rightwards. Then what about the tension force acting on block B, rightwards or leftwards? Because this string can only pull this one, cannot push it, so the tension force on block B will be in this direction. Got it? 2 things here. And suppose if we consider the string alone, so this point is on the block, it is not on the string. Here this point is also on the block, not on this string. Now let me draw the blocks and strings separately here. This is block A, this is string part, and this is block B. Let this point be some P, let this point be some Q. So here what is, where is point P here? This is point P. Here this is point P. And this point is point Q. And this point is point Q. This point Q is a common point for this end of the string as well as this point of B. Here this point P is common for this end of the string and this point on this block here. So on this block, what is the direction of tension force? Rightwards. Why tension force is rightwards? Because this rope can pull this block. Okay? And what is the tension force on this end of the string? On this end of the string, tension force can be acting only in this direction at the both ends. Tension force can act so as to stretch the string. Therefore, we can draw tension forces like this on this string. Then what about this one? It can, this rope can only pull this block, so tension force will be like this. Got it now? So using those 2 points, we are capable of drawing forces here. So next one, in the case of pulley also, suppose 2 blocks are there like this. This is block B and this is the block A. So in this case, on block B, what is the tension force? In this direction. On block A, in this direction. Here this rope or this string is acting at this point on the pulley. Here also at this point. At this point on the pulley, how tension force is acting? Downwards like this. At this point also it is downwards like this. This is pulley. Got it? So we are capable of drawing forces here. So next one is the spring force. 8. Spring force itself is, I think it is 7th one. Spring force, it is Fs. Spring force is a force that comes into existence in springs, not when they are in their original length, when they are deformed from their original length. That is, when a spring is stretched, we find spring force coming into existence within the spring. When the spring is compressed, then also we find this force. See, suppose if we consider a spring here like this, this is the natural length L here. Suppose if the spring is stretched like this, this is block A, this is block A. See, this is the natural length, no? L. So what is this one? Up to here, it is the extension produced in the spring. That is, it is the change in length produced in the spring. Whenever the spring is deformed from its original length, immediately, it will not take a fraction of a second also. If the spring is deformed from its original length, immediately this spring force comes into existence. So spring force acts in such a way so as to bring back the spring to its original position, original condition. So in which direction spring force acts? Spring force acts in this direction, Fs. While external force F external is acting in this direction, spring force is acting in this direction. See, here the block is not accelerated, it is made to move with a constant velocity. Okay, so always this external force and this spring force, both of them are equal in magnitude. So what is spring force? Fs is opposite to change in length. So here change in length is rightwards, so it is acting opposite to that one. Suppose if the spring is compressed, then in this case, this is the natural length L. Okay, this is X is the decrease in length of the spring. When the spring is compressed from its natural length, this is the natural length, no, it is compressed like this, compressed to a distance X here. So the change in length is decreased by X here. In this case, in which direction? So this is external force is acting in this direction so as to compress. In which direction the spring force will act now? So as to, it has to oppose this change in length. So change in length is leftwards, so it is acting rightwards now. This is spring force. So you got regarding the direction of spring force now. Let us see how much, what about the magnitude of spring force here. Fs, it is found that Fs is directly proportional to change in length, and Fs is equal to K times of change in length. Here K is known as force constant. Here K is known as force constant, or it is also known as spring constant. K is known as force constant, or it is known as spring constant, and this law is known as Hooke's law. This law is known as Hooke's law. Got it now? So the last topic is series and parallel connection of springs. Series and parallel connection of springs. One more point you should know before this one is that the force constant of the spring and its natural length is the product of force constant of a spring and its natural length is always constant. Okay, suppose if a spring is there of force constant K and length L, suppose if this is cut into two parts, a small spring here, another small spring, then we get two new parts of springs. No, here its spring constant will be K1, here it is K2, here its natural length is L1, here its natural length is L2. Then KL equal to K1 L1, that equal to K2 L2. Okay, this is one important result regarding springs here. And one more thing is, yes, series and parallel connection of springs. What is a series connection? What is series connection? The way of connecting of springs such a way that same force acts on the springs, but the elongations produced in the springs are different. So how they are connected here? Suppose one spring is there, this is another spring, this is block, okay, this is F external force. So in this case, suppose an external force F is acting on this block. So let us consider massless springs. If these are massless springs, the force that is trying to stretch these springs is same across this spring as well as this spring. So in this spring the stretching force is F only, in this spring also the stretching force is F only. Same force will be acting across the springs. And here only if they are massless springs only, and we are given only massless springs. Okay, suppose here two springs are there, no? It is force constant is K1, here force constant is K2. Here forces are same, but elongations are different. It is X1, here it is X2. Got it? Here two springs are connected in such a way that same force acts across them, but the elongations produced in them will be different. Such way of connecting springs is known as series connection or series combination of springs. So here force is same now here. Suppose if we consider an equivalent spring, so of a spring constant K equivalent, and elongation produced is X. So in this case X equal to X1 plus X2. What is X? Because we know F equal to Kx, no? So what is X here? F by K. So F by K equivalent equal to what is X1? F by K1 plus what is X2? F by K2. So in this case 1 by K equivalent equal to 1 by K1 plus 1 by K2. So the reciprocal of equivalent force constant is equal to sum of reciprocals of individual force constants. Okay, so next one is a parallel combination of springs. Parallel combination of springs. If springs are connected in such a way that forces across them are different, but elongations produced or change in length produced in them is same, such type of combination of springs is known as parallel combination. Let us see. So let us consider two springs here. A block A. So in this case an external force F is acting on this block and pulling here like this, But here across this spring the force is F1, across the spring force is F2. So equal force is not acting on them. They are not sharing this force equally. Okay, suppose here the spring is, it is K1, force constant is K2 here, but here see elongation is same in both of them. It is x1 x, here also it is x only. So if we consider an equivalent spring, what will be elongation here? Elongation must be same only, no? So what is its force constant? K equivalent. How much force is acting on this one? There is no chance for sharing because single spring is there. This entire force will be acting on this spring alone. So F is same. Then what will be extension here? Extension will be also x. So got it? Here in this case, here this force is equal to F1 plus F, because same force is acting. Here this force is shared by these two springs. Here this entire force is taken by this spring alone. So therefore total force is given as F1 plus F2. Here I will write F equal to F1 plus F2. So what is F here? Since you know F equal to Kx, so what is F here? K equivalent into x equal, what is F1? K1x plus what is F2? K2x. X's cancel. So K equivalent equal to K1 plus K2. So we got it. So when the springs are connected in parallel, the equivalent force constant K equivalent equal to K1 plus K2. The topic is over. Newton's laws is over. Now let us jump to one more topic, that is friction.